Utopia, dystopia, and today's technologies hosted by Johannes and bringing a global conversation discussing technologies that affect us all.
Hello, my name is Johannes and I am the host of this show. I am here today with Christian Wilk and we will be speaking about the singularity, which is a point in time at which we can an intelligence is created that can improve itself over time, or at least that's one of my definitions. We'll find out Christian's definition in a second. We'll also touch on the topics of consciousness, as well as super intelligences. And yeah, so let's get right into it. These are some topics we'll definitely talk about. There will be some various exciting things we'll be talking about here, also about Ray Kurzweil's vision and so on. Christian Wilk, after 10 years in Southeast Asia and India, now lives and works in Brussels, Belgium. He has a background in computer science and linguistics from the Technical University in Munich, Germany. He got that in 1995. Christian has been working on AI and information retrieval in the late 1990s. For more than 40 years now, he follows the further development of artificial intelligence, synthetic biology, and nanotechnology. He is particularly interested in the long-term impact and trajectories of these convergent technologies and how they will shape humanity. In 2013, Christian published a short paper where he described a possible scenario unfolding on the way to a singularity. This paper we will discuss today. He is currently active in managing publicly funded multinational research projects at the intersection of culture, arts, and computer science. So, hello, Christian. How are you today? And welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be on the show with Johannes here. Everybody, welcome. It looks like we have an interesting discussion for the next 1.5 hours. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. So let's start with the singularity. What is it? Let's get into that. What is the meaning of that word in the way that you see it?
Well, you already touched upon it a little bit. I mean, that's basically the common definition that the singularity will be a point in the future when artificially created intelligence will surpass human intelligence. And the first people who coined this term actually goes back before Ray Kurzweil. I mean, we all know that Ray Kurzweil is the one who coined the term and made it famous through his book, The Singularity is Near. But actually, the term goes way back to the 50s. The famous John von Neumann, whom we all know as the father of the modern computer, because the computer architecture as we know it, the standard computer architecture, so to say the mechanical one, which is fully transparent, the one with processors where data is shifted between registers and data is stored in the RAM or on hard disks. That's the John von Neumann architecture. And he, according to the obituary, which was written by Stanislav Ulam in the 50s, mentioned something like a point in the future where the technological advances and progress would reach a state which would surpass human capabilities to understand that progress. Then later on, about 10 years later, someone who worked with Alan Turing together in the Bletchley lab, I.J. Good, he coined the term of intelligence explosion, which is kind of similar to the singularity, because what he said is that once we reach a point when intelligence can improve itself, can amplify itself, then this will create an intelligence explosion which will be a runaway development in the sense that it happens within an instant of a time. Then that creates a singularity, because the word singularity actually comes from mathematics. It's basically a function which has a term which includes a division by zero. We all know that it goes then to infinity. And that in the graph, when you plot it, creates a singularity which cannot be overcome. You cannot basically transcend it, because it goes to infinity and there's a kind of a border to it. And from this metaphor, visual metaphor, Ray Kurzweil adopted it to turn to in his book, and laid out the way towards this singularity. And he sketches out in the book several ways towards achieving super intelligence, or there are many other names to this, like AGI, general artificial intelligence, super intelligence, etc. So extrapolating the exponential growth of computer speed, how things are calculated, the processing power of computer chips, Moore's law. He extended that and projected it into the future and came up with and also calculated the amount of calculations it would require, in his opinion, to simulate the brain. And bringing these two graphs together, he came up with a point in the future, 2045, according to Ray Kurzweil, when we will reach this singularity. When someone else, the science fiction author Werner Winch, also mentioned the singularity in 1993, and he estimated it to happen in 30 years from then. So it actually would have happened this year, 2023, according to Werner Winch. But it seems we are not yet there. So it seems if it happens, Ray Kurzweil has still
How
the
would you know?
best bet. How would you know?
How would you know that we're there? Yeah.
Well, it's a sudden increase in intelligence, an intelligence explosion, what I.G. Good described. We haven't seen that because when you look at ChatGPT, it doesn't improve itself in an exponential way. So it didn't suddenly, from one week to the other, reached out into the world and extended its knowledge base on its own by several degrees. We see something like the first steps of a recursive cycle feeding the output of ChatGPT into the development of other AIs. Like what happened 2 weeks ago when at Stanford Laboratories basically recreated something as powerful as ChatGPT by using the open source LLAM A model from Facebook, and did it at the cost of $600 by feeding output created by ChatGPT into the training patterns used for that language model. So it's kind of an AI which is more advanced, training on a basic model and coming up within a couple of hours or days to almost the same power as the original model. But that's kind of, if you would compare it to the real world, it's kind of inbreeding, because you're using the output created from ChatGPT, which of course is a closed world model, because it can only reason within its own limits, which are prescribed by the data fed into it. And you use that to train another model, so you will always stay within that same limited world. But coming back to the question, how would you know if you face a singularity? Well, Ray Kurzweil describes a very gradual step towards this singularity point by describing gradual stepwise improvements of the human condition by using synthetic biology, by using nanotechnology, and slowly basically enhancing the human skills, abilities, like enhancing the vision system by adding night vision to your eyes or increasing the capabilities to hear. and eventually, of course, connecting the brain directly to such an artificial intelligence system, therefore describing a kind of gradual way towards this step.
Yeah, so then it is the biological humans that basically will increase their intelligence, and overcome, and then basically feed it back into ourselves, right? So it's not necessarily a digital,
It
or it
doesn't
could be
have
both. It could be a combination of the two.
It could be, I think I've broken it down. It could be in three ways, happen in three ways. One way would be the merger, the gradual merger between humans and AI systems. So basically, with the advancement of ChatGPT and the direct link between your brain to ChatGPT evolving together and therefore creating a kind of chimera, or by using a non-merger, basically an artificial general AI, which develops on its own and reaches a time when it excels every known intelligence on this planet. And the
And this
third
is in
one,
behavioral terms, right? Does it have to be conscious?
that's the big question. Does it have to be conscious? I mean, if it behaves like you and me, if it does everything what a human can, do you need to attribute it something like consciousness? If it's not, if it's indistinguishable from any other person or going beyond any other person, what is
In
the
terms
added
of
value
behavior?
of, yes, in terms of behavior, what would be the added value of,
Well, so imagine that you could make ChatGPT very, very smart, say, then, but it's still based on this idea that it predicts words from other words and concepts from other words, and maybe, sorry, like words from concepts, and perhaps it can keep track of certain concepts and create stories because it can, but all of that, right, is in a sense mimicry of true of cognitive, well, not true intelligence. I don't want to say that because I think that that is intelligence, but I think that there's a difference between intelligence and consciousness. So in consciousness, so even if a thing could actually tell me all the things that a humans would say, or would say all the things that a human would say, but it actually can't experience the color blue or the wind in their face or any of these kind of experiences as as an entity, as saying, as having an identity. And in essence, that's, I think they're related. They're not exactly the same thing, because it is the identity or the ego that experiences, well, that is conscious, right? That is conscious and has consciousness. So what that means is basically that it experience and is an inner experience, a movie. Some people say an inner movie. I don't like that term because an inner movie would be quite flat, but it's sort of an immersion experience of something is immersed, right? That something is the conscious being, if you will. But you don't need that in order to have all of the behavior of a conscious being. So it's basically fakery in a way, because if you fall in love with a woman who's not really a woman, but who just predicts that it would be clever to say I love you right now, and it says all of these things that a woman might say, but has absolutely no meaning behind it, no inner real ontology, no true semantics.
I
Then
get your point, but how do you know? That's the difficult question. I mean, no, we don't have yet a theory of how to measure or how to identify consciousness. So that's the tricky part. I mean, you assume, you attribute that to other people that they have consciousness. You give them the benefit of the doubt, so to say. Otherwise, it would be difficult to interact, to communicate. But you don't really know. And you
well, but
assume.
you're yes, you assume it's true. It's an assumption.
Yeah, it's an assumption. And you give them the benefit of the doubt because it would be difficult if you permanently would be suspicious about your opposite of your conversational partner or your friend or your wife or whatsoever.
But I mean, the moment somebody wants to, okay, so here's my basic test, and then it's like not the Alan Turing test, but it's a much more basic test. The moment someone wants to earn money, to me, they must be conscious. Why else would they want this? I mean, do they have an objective
Well,
function that
because
someone
they
else
have to.
programmed them to have? Have for what? For what? For what purpose? So the whole purpose of everything falls immediately out. So I think there's no reason to raise children if you're not conscious. There's no reason to do anything. You will not have intrinsic reasons to do anything. You might be programmed to have reasons. So like an AI, like the systems we're currently programming them, right? We're saying, well, maximize this function, but that's clearly not its own. It doesn't have its own purpose, right? So it's very hard for me to imagine that all of these people around me make money just because they're programmed to maximize money or something like that. I mean, that to me is very difficult. So because of that, because of their apparent behavior, as if they were conscious, as if they had real reasons to do something, like raise children and so on, that to me makes the hypothesis of consciousness, almost, high enough, the likelihood of that high enough that I think that they're probably conscious.
Yeah, but again, if you don't really know how to measure it, how to define it, then it's always a network of beliefs and assumption that you kind of agree to in order to function in a society. I mean, before the advent of computers, we never had these questions because we didn't have anything to challenge. Because we anthropomorphize our pets, for example, cats and dogs. We attribute to them a certain kind of consciousness. And coming back to the video you shared earlier, where John Searle gave an example that he attributes to his dog some degree of consciousness because of the similarity of the perceptions they have.
Now, the second question is about how do you know about consciousness? Well, think about real life. How do I know my dog Tarski is conscious and this thing here, my smartphone, is not conscious? I don't have any doubts about either one. I can tell that Tarski is conscious not on behavioristic grounds. People say, well, it's because he behaves like a human being. He doesn't. See, human beings, I know when they see me, don't rush up and lick my hands and wag their tails. They just don't. My friends don't do that, but Tarski does. I can see that Tarski is conscious because he's got a machinery that's relevantly similar to my own. Those are his eyes. These are his ears. This is his skin. He has mechanisms that mediate the input stimuli to the output behavior that are relevantly similar to human mechanisms. This is why I'm completely confident that Tarski's conscious. I don't know anything about fleas and termites. Your typical termite's got 100,000 neurons. Is that enough? Well, I lose 100,000 on a big weekend. So I don't know if that's enough for consciousness, but that's a factual question. I'll leave that to the experts. But as far as human beings are concerned, there isn't any question that everybody in this room is conscious. I mean, maybe that guy over there is falling asleep, but there's no question about what the general... it's not even a theory that I hold. It's a background presupposition. The way I assume that the floor is solid, I simply take it for granted that everybody's conscious. If forced to justify it, I could. Now, there's always a problem about the details of other minds. Of course, I know you're conscious, but are you suffering with the angst of post-industrial man under late capitalism? Well, I have a lot of friends who claim they do, and they think I'm Philistine because I don't. But that's tougher. We'd have to have a conversation about that. But for consciousness, it's not a real problem in a real-life case.
In the video, he said because the dog has eyes, he has ears, he has a nose, so his perceptions, the way he perceives the world, are similar to his own, because as a human you have eyes, you have ears, you have a nose.
Yeah, but he
you
means
move around in physical space.
But I think what he means there is the causal mechanisms that are going on in his own brain, right? Knowing that he's conscious. So I agree with this very much, because I think this is exactly how I would think of it. It's like, because I have a brain that it looks and feels and is probably very similar to yours, and to the dogs, and relatively similar to the dogs, relatively similar to all mammals, really. And because I am a mammal, and also because other people study consciousness, so they must believe in it. Where does that come from? Likely from their consciousness. So I feel that I have this brain. I am like this exactly, and I think this is that's what he's alluding to. And because the dog is rather similar to me in all of the mechanistic machinery that I can observe, it must be that he has a similar experience. And it's an assumption. I agree. It's not. There's no
Yeah,
test
because I mean,
of that, but
exactly, because if you would create a robot dog with the same look and feel as his real physical biological dog, then what would be the assumption? Because the worldview of the dog is similar to one of the human, that the dog would have similar views of the world. It's very tricky terrain, I mean, to go out there.
it is. But what is the likelihood? Okay, so my this is, I think, what he also gets at. The likelihood that I am the only one who has this experience is extremely low. So basically, if I'm the only one who has this experience, but my brain is very similar to other brains, and then there's all these books written about consciousness, right? So what is the likelihood, from observing this, like in the Bayesian sense, So you probably you know about Bayesian inference, I'm sure.
Looking for people who have been stuck in the ocean, searching for gold in an abandoned ship, logic puzzles, and spam filters in your emails. What do all of these things have in common? Well, they may seem pretty unrelated, but they do all have one link, and it's what my talk is on, Bayes' theorem. Now, Bayes' theorem is a specific theorem in maths that essentially measures people's changing beliefs. To have this proved in mathematical format, with algebra and in probability, and to have that prove something very intrinsic to human nature, I think is really beautiful. And I think there's a high probability that you will agree with me.
Yes, sure.
So basically, I have one observation of consciousness, my own, right? I observe that there's tons of books written about this topic, and that other people easily speak about their experiences. And they also have the same architecture in the brains. Now, if they start looking the same, because they're built by machines, or let's say by us, we build something that looks like us, behaves like us, but has a totally different architecture, behaves like us, and has all the outward things. The likelihood that that thing is conscious is very low, because we currently don't understand how consciousness works. And it's precisely because of that I don't think that something we could have built right now actually has it, right? So that's I think, and so it's not that we can't, because we don't understand how it works, therefore it must not be true, or it must not be real or relevant. Those, I think, are very, very different things. Does that make sense?
I agree with you on that. Yes, no, I agree with you on that. The only question to me is if we don't have a bias here, in the sense that, I mean, we are talking about something on a meta level. I mean, a human thinking about the own way of thinking is a meta level of thinking. So you're assuming something about the workings of the brain, and at the same time you're using that brain to think about that, the inner workings. So it's like a machine leaving its own world to think about it. I wonder if it's possible, and of course I don't know, and I mean, it's not an objection. I wonder if it's possible to simulate something like a consciousness, and what purpose it would serve in humans to have a consciousness. I mean, maybe it serves to hold up an integrity. I mean, we all have a body. If we wouldn't have the sense of that is us, I mean, I am this body plus the way I perceive the world, that is me. If you wouldn't have that kind of feeling, then you would disintegrate. You would not perceive yourself as something that needs to persist in time into the future.
Yeah,
You wouldn't have a purpose.
and it's
Yes,
even questionable,
I mean,
if it could even be true that if no conscious being were there, that the whole universe actually wouldn't be there. So if nothing can perceive
well,
the universe,
yes.
that you see that maybe the universe itself actually and so this is one theory. So I think this is the one that David
Yes,
Chambers
it doesn't
espouses.
exist without an observer.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. That actually, well, that also that it's panpsychism, right? So the idea that actually
yes.
consciousness is actually a fundamental property of the universe, and that everything actually has some level of it, some degree, including ChatGPT, but not very much. So it's like
Well, I
ChatGPT will
think
have as much of it as a rock, maybe.
I think on his Wikipedia page it is described as that he attributes every information processing function a degree of consciousness. Even a thermostat, in his opinion, would then have some degree of consciousness. But that is interesting because the fundamental duality in consciousness currently in research is between physicalism and information processing. So Searle, for example, claims that it's based on physical properties and cannot be emulated in hardware or in software on a computer. So that it's intrinsically linked to our physical brains and our biological mechanisms.
Well, not, but that's subtle.
Whereas,
That's subtle because he doesn't think that that's the only way it could be implemented, but he believes that right now the best way to find out what consciousness is and how it works is to look at the physical brain because it certainly produces it, and the models that we have don't produce it because it's not even trying to produce it.
well, not yet. I mean, I would say because the artificial intelligence as a research field is 70 years old. For the first 50 years, it was regarded as wizardry and not taken seriously, and only since about 2015, since we see the first examples of walking robots, self-driving cars, even very limited ways, and now ChatGPT now suddenly has waken up to the threat and promise of artificial intelligence. But for 60 years, it was work in the making. And it's in that sense, it's one of the youngest research fields we have. So I don't think it's surprising that we haven't solved everything there is to solve, and consciousness may be the most trickiest nut to crack, because if we solve that, we know everything about ourselves and maybe the rest as well. The question is consciousness necessary to create an artificial intelligence that is dangerous or could be dangerous for us, or not even dangerous, but catastrophic for us?
But what the singularity is, do you see that as a catastrophe?
Well, I think so. I mean, because it will be the end of humanity as we know it. It will change completely, radically. What I don't like, I mean, personally don't like, is that the the biological self, what we cherish now, the possibility to go out at the beach and enjoy the sun setting, or to smell the grass on a lawn when after a fresh rain in spring. I mean, that will completely disappear. We will basically abandon our biological existence. I mean, it
So
might not
this is
happen in the next 50 years, but
fascinating. But how
over
does that
long
work?
term, let's say projected over 200 years, I think that's the most probable development trajectory.
Why is it that intelligence and increasing intelligence indefinitely, or having a singularity in the intelligence, like an intelligence explosion, why do you see that as um, as erasing those natural experiences or the experiences that we have in nature? I don't see that it
Hmm.
necessarily follows.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not obvious lying there. I mean, in the paper I wrote 10 years ago, and which goes back to the ideas I'm pondering for or playing with since 20 years, I took the assumption of Ray Kurzweil serious and started from the premise that simulated minds, substance independent minds are possible, which means that mind uploading would become possible. I mean, in his book, he describes certain pathway to that using nanotechnology to replicate the structure of your brain. as a kind of software algorithm, and then to be able to run it computationally on any kind of hardware. It doesn't have to be our current hardware, but any kind of hardware as an algorithm mostly. Of course, that contradicts all what we've discussed so far before, because if it's true that consciousness depends, or intelligence at least depends on our physical structure of our brain, it will not be possible to replicate it as an informational process. But under the assumption that it is possible, what would happen then is you upload the brain, and you would be able to simulate your brain and that of many million others faster than real time. So what you could experience in a lifetime in 50 years, you could basically emulate in a fraction of a time, let's say overnight or in a minute. It doesn't matter, but extremely compressed, like let's say usually the comparison Ray Kurzweil uses is that the computer runs 1 billion times faster than the human brain. So you would have a compression of time by 1 million.
No, but
So
you
a
wouldn't,
lifetime,
right? Because so you can operate faster, but it wouldn't necessarily, they wouldn't actually move, they wouldn't speed up any of the other processes, right? So anything else that's happening in the world, let's say elections would still happen every 4 years. The you
no,
know, just because your brain
that's
works
right. I mean,
faster.
it would create. Oh, no, I mean that's just a starting point. I'm very early in the in the story. So once that happens, once you're able to upload your brain and do that with millions of other brains and carry out simulation, you can use that as a tool, running simulations on societal level, not only on individual level. Because what we do with intractable problems which cannot be solved analytically, we have to simulate it to get an idea how the effects will be. I mean, for weather, for example, for all kinds of complex systems, you have to do that. You go and run a simulation. Now, if you would like to know what would be the best society we could live in, what would be the best economic model we could have to overcome certain problems, and you don't want to wait until it plays out in real time, you would run a simulation with all the copies of the human brains that exist. Then
But
you
why?
would
What, the way that I understand simulation to work, the way that I've used it in the past, is to simplify, right? To actually not have all of the mental capacities of every individual in the model, but to sort of to simplify it to the points of that you need for your theory, right? Or that you need in order to understand this one process, or even the economy or something like that. You can simplify the behavior, right? You just need some well, actually all you need really is behavior. You actually won't need
yeah, but
consciousness for that, for sure.
no, and that's why I'm saying, I mean, consciousness is not necessarily a prerequisite to create the simulations. You just need to replicate the functionalities of the brain in such an online environment as simulation. I mean, it's not the simulation you don't run to prove any theory about. You just want to see your own future, basically, or possible futures. You want to play with 10,000 possible scenarios how the next 500 years would play out if you change the parameters 500 times. Let's say you change the parameters, socioeconomic parameters. You create different countries. You change the laws here and there, and you see how it plays out after 500 years. Because with many of the large-scale complex systems, you cannot foresee all the consequences. I mean, there are many unintended consequences in the design of complex systems. So how do you know? You have to run it through a simulation. That's why you would do that. That is one thing, I mean, to run these simulations. But of course, when you come to the point where you can upload your mind, and of course that creates a certain pressure, socioeconomic pressure, because suddenly you, as Johannes Kastner, you could increase your income tenfold by creating 10 Johannes Kastners, and upload 9 into the virtual reality or upload 5 into the virtual reality, have 4 being embodied as robots in different environments, and have 10 wage earners at the same time. So extrapolating our current socioeconomic system and imagining that mind uploading would be possible, it will
But
not
again,
stop at the point. Yes.
again, there would not necessary to have any consciousness, right? So you could do probably most functions. So if I wanted to duplicate myself literally as a worker, I could do most of the functions. Unfortunately, this is true, without actually having the experience of working, right? Of being you don't actually have to have conscious experience to write books. Unfortunately, this is not something I would have thought. Actually, I want to say that my prior on this, so to speak, my prior belief would have been that you cannot write a book or an essay of any sense without having a consciousness experience, being an experienced person. But that has been falsified by these ChatGPT. Even if they're not good enough now, I believe now that for sure there will be one of those that can write a good book. So now at some
But the
point, right,
question
that
is,
I
of
can
course,
do.
what is the quality of the outcome? I mean, it will not be original thinking. I mean, there will be no original thinking coming out of ChatGPT. So it will regurgitate whatever is fed into it in all possible combinatorial permutations, and it's fine enough to be admitted to high school tests, etc., or to be good enough for newspapers. But it will not advance our knowledge of the world or increase the knowledge of our world, because it always stays within the limits of that knowledge it was given.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I totally agree with that, but I don't think that this is true of all possible very soon to be created machines. So I do think that we will switch from we already are, we're using, so as it stands, ChatGPT now got access to Mathematica, and it can do some reinforcement learning. It's very likely that we, in this sort of way, patch our way to something that can create new stories, completely new creative things, but yet is still missing this experience factor, right? So it will still not experience
Yes,
the
yes,
world.
I agree with you.
So with that, saying
But
that you can upload your mind, you could potentially upload something that is exactly like you, accept that it is missing consciousness. And maybe that you would prefer having those people work because they're not, feeling any anxiety. They will never stop working. They will work 24 hours. They don't need to sleep. So in some ways, for doing the functions of a human every day, you could use these sort of extensions of yourself. So I agree with that, and that's very probable. But I don't see that you will lose the experiences, because I think you still will matter as the only one with the consciousness, right? Even if you weren't the only one, you would still, every individual that has a consciousness will matter from our own ethical code. We can see it when you look at abortions, right? So the question is, how long should you wait before you can no longer abort a child? The next question is, well, when does consciousness start, right? So the question is never, can it drive a car? Can it write a book? Can it be super intelligent and do a lot of great math? But the question is always, when does it become conscious, which is essentially different. So it reveals itself in this discussion, actually, around abortion and such things, as a quality other than intelligence, outside of intelligence. So there's intelligence, and then there is consciousness.
I think consciousness manifests itself in a distinctive characteristic which you can only attribute to that single particular entity. I mean, that's how you also recognize people, even if you don't see them, even if you don't hear. I mean, everybody has its own characteristic. Behavior is one thing, but way of expressing, way of responding. I mean, you mentioned before predictability. I mean, predictability is, of course, the enemy of consciousness. I mean, if someone is completely predictable, then that somebody would appear as a kind of zombie, and we would not attribute consciousness to somebody that acts totally predictable.
Well, you would
So
imagine that.
unpredictable.
I don't know. So I think that if you observe, if you really have observational superiority, that you can, let's say you have the Internet of bodies, you have little chips everywhere. You can measure every little twitch that a person has. You can measure everything they say. Obviously, their voice, their tonality, their eyebrow twitches. You could potentially fake it. I do believe now that what I've seen with deep fakes, with everything else that I've seen, I believe now, and I didn't believe this prior to this, new developments, that in fact we could fake consciousness. That you could have someone that you would not see the difference. You could interrogate them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months. It wouldn't matter. They are still not conscious, and they would be able to pretend that they are, because they're built to do that, right? So every little function that is, so they're built out of many different types of functions, and they're all basically, each one of them is optimized to fake one little element of your personality, right? And so I could imagine it to work in the faking sense, but not be real.
So basically what you're saying is that it would become impossible to differentiate between an entity which is completely faking it and a real human being.
Yeah, except for the
with,
new
with
measurements that might come out at some point, right? So I think, again, with John Searle there, that once we understand how that stuff works, how we understand how the brain actually produces consciousness, at that point we might be able to measure it, directly.
Well, we are provided that it's true. Yeah, I mean that's really the big question. If we're looking forward, if somebody solves that riddle on what consciousness depends, if it's really an informational process only, or if it is really dependent on physical matter, then yeah, it's true. We'll have.
But that would actually then, like, so if you have this, right? So if consciousness is in ethical status, like, so reading your paper, right? When what you're saying is that this idea of I, self, ego, Atman, whatever you call it can disappear because we're building such a great, technology, sort of like intelligence that eventually will just melt into one sort of super intelligence, in other words, if I understand it right. But that then these experiences will no longer be valued or something of that sort. You'd have to, in my mind, there has to be an ethical element to this, because at this point I can see all of our laws, everything that we are doing is as if consciousness was actually at the center of ethics, and at the center of what it means to build something good. Basically, what is ethical depends on consciousness, right? So if it's a machine, you can destroy it. It's not immoral. It may not be, you might have to pay for it or whatever, but you can blow it up. It won't matter. If it is a human, or if it's a dog or a cat these days, we care about it, and that's because of consciousness. So I think that the leap in your paper that you're making is in this exact thing, right?
Yeah, no, I mean that's why, I mean, that's exactly what scares me a bit. I mean, because we value our identity of being one person, of being one human being observing, enjoying the world. But once you start to become multiple eyes, multiple persons distributed all over the world in several embodiments, will you be able to retain the idea of I? And I think you will not be able to, because a distributed entity, I mean, the internet, a good example would be the internet. Could you regard the internet as one? It's not. I mean, it consists of millions of parts. So if you have sensors in one of your embodiment in Japan, the other one in New York, the other one in the sky, the other one underwater, and you feed all this sensory input into one, assume you be able to process it meaningful. What would it mean? I mean, suddenly to be several persons at the same time. can you then retain the idea of one? I mean, once you fork yourself off, so to say, like in GitHub terminology, you create a fork of yourself, and one lives off in that particular part of the world, and the other one in another part, another one in the virtual reality environment. They have different experiences, as you say. Experiences will differ fundamentally in
So
quality.
if they all have a
Of course,
consciousness, right? So you're presuming that they are conscious and actually have some experiences, right? Because if they are, why are they not
well,
individuals themselves? Why is the copy not instantly a new individual on its own?
the copy will, because it's a copy, retain information about where it was copied from. Of course, you could delete that and create kind of a baby which is already 30 years old and equip it with no prior knowledge of its existence. Yes, of course, you could do that. But then what's the point? I mean, you want a fork of yourself for some reasons because you want to use it for something. So just spawning off thousands of copies of yourself without them knowing that were you before is just creating 1,000 more
Yeah,
entities.
so if they really have a consciousness,
Of
so
course, you could.
you could think of it like, the way that currently that you have a plant that you can make little offshoots of, right? Then when you take the offshoot of a plant and you transfer it somewhere else, then it's its own plant now, right? It has its own identity, or at least that's how we tend to think of it when we look at a plant that we essentially branch off, right? So maybe it has the
Yeah,
same
because we
history.
don't attribute, mm,
So
but
even if
because we
something has its
don't
own
attribute
history,
consciousness to plants.
right, we don't. That's true. That's also true because we don't know. We don't really know whether or not plants are. Some
Yeah,
people do.
exactly. We don't know.
I tend to
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, and in Asian mythology, for example, especially in Japanese, trees have a life or a spirit
Yeah,
of its own, right?
Native Americans believe the same, and
So,
I tend to believe that as well.
mm,
I have no proof. Obviously, we have no proof of this, but
mm.
even with, let's say, you spin off a
But
copy of yourself, I still think this copy now owns its own like new experiences. So it is essentially an offspring or another way of it's just a new way. Basically, yeah, it's a new asexual way to reproduce.
yeah, okay, but again, if you do that just to create new entities, then what's the point? I mean, you want to kind of be the puppet master or retain the link to your offsprings.
That's a good question because
If you don't,
I don't see much of a point, honestly, because I think that we would prefer to build something that has no consciousness, but that works and speaks for ourselves. That is basically a spokesperson for ourselves without the person. A chatbot, essentially. We do like those.
well, that's a kind of an avatar then.
Yeah, I don't think that we will
That's more
ever.
like an avatar.
Well, why would we ever want to create? So this is one thing I've
Well, I
also
hope not.
like. You don't see a.
Well, I see a lot of business there. I mean, even Philip K. Dick wrote a couple of books about this. I mean, and he did it 70 years ago. Well, I mean, of course, the temptation must be extremely high for powerful and rich people to create thousands of themselves and to hold on to power and to keep their businesses up and alive and thriving forever. So I think there's lots of temptation to do that. I mean, that's why I say in my paper it will not be, of course, a democratic thing that now the whole world and 4 billion people are able to do that. No, it will be the rich first who will be able to do that. And again, coming back to your question before, if they are conscious, I mean, that's the premise from the paper. It starts exactly there. So, of course, if you take the premise of that it won't work to simulate consciousness independent of substrates, then of course the whole thing falls apart. But I mean that's where the premise starts. You are able to simulate a mind
That's interesting.
in some outside the human brain.
Well, I find fascinating about this because I think that once you do that, I think you might. So the first rich person who wants to do this, they will try this out, right? And once they find out that this other person that they just created is actually not them, it might even have conflicts with them because of slight, new experiences, slight new shapings
Yes,
of it,
exactly,
right? So once
exactly.
they find this out, they will have arguments with them, and then in fact, eventually, maybe one of them will kill the other one, and who knows what will happen? There will be all sorts of stories there, but I think that in the end, they will recognize
Yes,
that it's not going to be like having their own slave, and that really that's what they want. Because
exactly. I mean, it starts off with the idea to have several of you trying to control them, trying to use them for something, and spirals quickly out of control, either, as you say, because the slight nuances in way these developed, becoming antagonistic, not listening to the orders from the puppet master whatsoever.
but then,
So of course, many things could go wrong there, and will.
but if we're going to be smarter than we are today, we might foresee that. So that's another thing too, that maybe this intelligence, you see that there's obviously in multiple ways one could see dystopias arising from the idea to be more intelligent or to have copies of oneself that are more intelligent than oneself and so on. But we could also say that once we are at that point where we see things clearer, where we are in fact more intelligent, maybe our wishes are not going to be this way, that that rich people would want to have a lot of copies of themselves, when in fact they might see that this is not a good idea.
Well, let's hope for the best and prepare for the worst. I mean,
True.
I don't see that. I mean, it's a nice wish, and I would be happy if it would play out as you describe. But looking back at history, I don't see that happen, honestly. I mean,
But is it not fair to
whatever
say
can go wrong goes wrong. I mean, it's Murphy's law.
that's true, but maybe not everything, right? So because if you look at history to explain something that happens with way more intelligent people that we've never experienced, that may not be the right way to look. And maybe the rear view mirror is not the right way to assess
Well,
the road ahead.
Basic motivations have stayed constant over thousands of years. I mean, like as you said, love is one of them, of course, but greed dominating other people. I mean, otherwise we would live in a perfect world if these basic emotions would not exist anymore, or if everyone would think rationally for the good of all, then yes, that will not happen. But I don't see it, honestly. I mean,
But coming back to Van Neumann, right, and the kind of intelligence that we've been thinking about, that is actually a form of rationality, right? So their idea was to become more rational, to build AI and to build science and the tools of science to make decisions not based on demons and on crazy or even crazy hunches or ego, right? So over time, the Enlightenment basically started something, ignited something that if we, I see that once we become more rational, and I think that actually AI, in a sense, the not having an ego, not having a consciousness, even, is an advantage of AI in some narrow way, in that it will make decisions based on some rules or some kind of objective function that you set up from the beginning, and that you never need to worry about emotions in this.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying in that paper that's the end of the humanity as we know it, because it will basically get rid of everything which we now regard as human. In the long term, every feature of what makes us human, emotions, feelings, being moody, one day you get up like this, the other day like that, who knows why. Most people cannot explain the sudden swings of moods. So that makes us humans, and that is going to disappear over long term. And I don't think it's for the better, honestly.
I think if it
I
appears from
mean,
decision
on a
making.
totally different.
So I think this, okay, in this regard, I believe.
Well, yes, from the decision making, and I mean, there are also very interesting movies. I mean, of course, science fiction movies always exaggerate, but they can be inspiring. And there's one good example for this, I think, is Colossus from 1970, which starts on the premise to rule out every emotion in decision making which could happen, and creating a supercomputer which will control the launching of missiles in the Cold War. Yeah, of course it goes wrong. I mean, otherwise it would not be a science fiction movie. But this fallacy of thinking that rationality is the solution to everything at all. I mean, yes, then you can reduce everything to mathematics, to functions and predictability. Then, but what is the point then? I mean, if we rule out
exactly.
ourselves.
So the point, I think, is in the other things, right? So I think, so I was going to say, if it disappears from decision making, particularly critical decision making, I'd be in favor. But if the humanity disappears from music and from art, I would find that tragic, absolutely tragic. It makes absolutely no sense why a machine that doesn't experience anything would want to give us something like music. To me, that makes no sense. But on the other hand, making decisions where we don't want the ego to get in the way, where we don't want our emotions to get essentially in the way, like stock trading, for example, or even medical procedures, and so on. I think that there are places for an absolutely detached rationalism that would help us out a lot. And that's why we maybe in these working machines, in these copies of ourselves, right? We could make copies of ourselves that don't have consciousness, and in some areas they would work much better, in a way. So that's what I'm thinking. Ironically, and I feel like this is very ironic.
So of course, I mean, once you think about copies of yourself, you might not have to equip them with your full spectrum of emotions and abilities. You could narrow it down to only certain capabilities and skills. I mean, if you create a copy of yourself to be used in underwater mining, I mean, it's always dark down there. Why would you would suppress some certain senses and feelings of being locked up and so on.
Yeah, you might even want to get rid of consciousness altogether, and I think that is the case.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is just a robot, without thinking. Then you don't need a copy of yourself.
Well, you need
except you have some special skills, dexterity, or way of thinking which is required for that particular job.
Maybe even your ethical sense, right? So you want to take, I think you do want to behave as yourself in terms of your values. Whenever your values are expressed in behavior, you want the robot to behave as if it had your values. But you don't need it to actually have them. That's what I would argue. And I think that, in fact, there is no business case for building consciousness into robots. I cannot see one, because behaviorally, I believe we could be identical to things that do not have it. And since everything that we can think of as business cases are all behavioral, there's no business case.
Well, Ray Kurzweil makes some point for examples, I mean, for these cases. For example, he talks about replicating the deceased. I mean, talking about his father who passed away, and he recreated a software agent to talk with him by compiling all the outputs his father created, books, whatever, and had this software agent, a neural network, learn from that, and now he can interact with it like he would, in parentheses, talk to his father. Which reminds me of a Black Mirror episode, which is exactly along that line. I mean, Be Right Back, where someone recreates a deceased person who died in a car accident to be able to live on with them.
Or express suicidal thoughts or self-harm.
Yeah, well, you aren't you, are you?
That's another difficult one, to be honest with you.
You're just a few ripples of you. There's no history to you. You're just a performance of stuff that he performed without thinking, and it's not enough.
Come on. I aim to please.
Aim to jump, just do it.
Okay. If you're absolutely sure.
See, Ash would have been scared. He wouldn't have just leapt off. He would have been crying. He would have been...
Oh. Oh. Oh, God, no. Please, I don't want to do it. Please don't make me do it.
No, that's not fair.
No, I'm frightened. Darling, please, don't make me. I don't want to die. God, I don't want to die.
It's not fair.
Please, I'm frightened. I don't want to die. Don't.
Scary from my point of view, because it just points to me that someone cannot let go and doesn't accept the most fundamental basics of reality, that life starts with birth and ends with death. So that's another aspect of transhumanism or singularity. I mean, this wish for immortality, which of course is one of the major driver behind this, the proponents of singularity, the wish to live forever. And I mean, you were mentioning that you can't imagine, or you would imagine that some people, rich people, would not go that line, but that is actually the current driver behind this development.
For sure, but they might not
in life
need...
extending medicine.
But you don't need to make a copy of it, right? You can just go on as you are, not necessarily make multiple copies of yourself, but simply prolong this one experience that you have.
You want to be at the same time at different places.
Right. So I guess
instead of telepresence,
I can't imagine that.
You want to travel to the moon and at the same time travel to underwater to the Pacific.
If you really were there, right? If you're saying that this can all be done with a consciousness, then what you would want, if you want to have this sort of simultaneous experience, as you said, what you'd want a consciousness that is capable of having these experiences all at once, but be in a sense centralized, right? You don't want three different things that are like you having experiences that you're not having, right? That doesn't make sense to me. Why would I want to make a copy of myself that then goes off in the world and experiences something? Maybe they can call me on the phone and tell me what it was like, but it's just like my brother. I already have a brother. So what I would want then in that case,
that's not how it was meant or described, that someone calls you to tell you how it was. Of course, you would be able to synthesize and aggregate the experiences in one. I mean, if you would not be able to do it in the right way from the beginning, you would start off with individual copies, trying to shepherding them together until you reach that state, what you just described before, where we are able to act as one but distributed.
And I have the experience
to have a simultaneous.
Yeah, the question is, how would you have?
Yeah, but that is exactly where I say that is not human-like anymore. I mean, that does not have anything to do anymore with the feeling we have today, because it would transform to a planetary existence.
But it is so unimaginable, right?
It's unimaginable, but I mean, it starts just where basically the singularity begins. I'm trying to think a little bit beyond what would happen after the singularity would happen.
Yeah, it's incredible to imagine.
I mean, that was the idea, to think a little bit beyond taking the current socioeconomic context as a given, because that usually doesn't change that quickly as technology advances. I mean, you mentioned that in another comment you made a couple of days earlier, and of course, that's a huge problem, that the time it takes to come up with regulatory decisions is much slower than technology advances. I mean, the time scales are. I don't think they will ever touch base again together. So politics will always lag behind, and will just fulfill the basic needs, basic requirements they have.
Well, even if so that's where I'm doubting this a little bit, because I think that once we one way to use this intelligence, all of this intelligence that we're building is in politics, right? So to improve the system, to improve essentially the political system in a more intelligent way, so as to get to a more collective intelligent behavior. I think that's also on the way, right? This is part of this singularity experience or experiments.
When we all know that AI started as an idea in the military, and that's of course where it will have the most immediate application, unfortunately, of course, but it's always been like this. But in politics, yeah, it might be used, but as I said, I don't think that it will make much difference there. Once we reach the singularity, politics will be basically sidelined, because the one country or business or individual which will be able to come up with the first general AI will be the first and last, so to say. I mean, Nick Bostrom has described this nicely. I mean, the winner takes it all, because once you have such a self-improving AI, nobody else will be able to catch up with you anymore.
So actually, this might be the use case for consciousness, because if you endow it with consciousness, then it actually won't be owned, right? Because it will be its own owner. It will effectively not be ownable.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's I think another big fallacy that in the current discussions on AI, there's always the assumption, and I think it's a wrong assumption, that it will be able to control in some way how this AI will develop. And I think the most naive one is the one which Ray Kurzweil describes as, because we will develop with it together, it will share our values and we don't need to worry. I mean, that's unbelievably naive, I would say.
We're just speaking about this idea that if the first intelligence that can improve itself is not human, and it's an AI essentially, and if it's built by the first person who owns it would basically dominate everybody and would run away with it, or if it can't be owned because if it actually has consciousness, then it's a different story, right? Because then it's basically, it owns itself. It wants something. Who knows what it wants? We don't actually know because it hasn't evolved.
Exactly. It could be, like you say, or I mean, it could have a consciousness, but could still cooperate with its master or creator, whatever you want to call it. I mean, with its personal God.
So the problem I have with this is that consciousness co-evolved with all of the other things that we want, right? We want something because why? Because we want to raise children and leave something for them there. And all of these kinds of wants and needs that we have, that we can understand, evolve in this process. So now if we have AI, which currently is just objective function maximization, right? So I don't see how we get from there to actually consciousness with its own wants and needs. I don't see a pathway. I don't think there is a direct pathway between anything we're building at the moment and consciousness. So again, I think that John Searle is right in the sense that we first have to understand how it works causally, right? How consciousness works causally, because otherwise we'll just have a very rich person or the first person who invents something like ChatGPT, but let's say 1,000 times smarter, but not have consciousness. Then I can see it, yeah, okay, it'll be owned by this person and so on. Interestingly though, up to now, a lot of these systems are either made open source or they are basically built for people to use them and then maybe pay a fee to someone who owns it or something like this. At this point, that's kind of been the model, right? So all of these very powerful models a lot of them have turned out open source. And if the first one isn't, some subsequent one will be, right? So, and if it's open source, then it's a different thing, right? So we could have a singularity that is open source, right? And I think that's actually maybe the most plausible one, right? And that would mean very different things, right? So what that would mean again, we still don't really know what it means. Maybe we are already in it, right? Because to some degree, with our cell phones, we're much smarter than without our cell
I
phones,
know
right?
this.
So why do you need an actual plug-in to the brain?
Well, Ray Kurzweil makes this comparison as well to the smartphone. I don't think it's a valid comparison because the smartphone is basically just a better access, faster access to information. So it's basically your universal global library in your hands. I mean, before 20 years ago, you had to walk to a library, flip through the indexes to find something. Now you just pick up the phone and do it. I mean, it's just another quicker access to information. That's all it is.
But is it? Because
there's
functions that it can do, right? Aside from reading and writing, you can use it for a lot of things like estimation. How long will it take me from here to go to central London, for example? If I look this up right now on the cell phone, it will tell me that, right? That's not the same as going to the library would never been able to tell me that, right? So in a way, Google Maps is already extending our intelligence.
Dynamic, okay. Yes, I understand your point. I mean, that it has been extended to dynamic information, not just static information, of course, where it is available in books, but also dynamically created information. But coming back to what you said before, that if it's conscious, you don't see how it would create wishes, how it would come up with purposes and to follow or to implement. Well, I don't see it that clearly dualistic either or. I mean, you could have a conscious AI and still be bootstrapped by its owner with some basic goals to pursue in the world.
So you're saying it would have experiences?
Not be possible. I mean, and in a way possible.
So it would have experiences, like it would feel the cool wind?
I would say that it's bootstrapped with something it will pursue, like a goal to do this and that, like Eric K. Drexler described the nanogoose scenario, I mean, which of course goes hayward by designing nanobots which transform matter into something, and then suddenly, if you follow this goal through until its end, it would transform the whole Earth into gray goo. It's of course a goal ran havoc, but someone more intelligent could come up with a framework of goals implemented in that AI, and maybe up to a certain degree, the AI would not notice where these wishes or goals would come from. I mean, we don't know. I mean, that's really speculation times 10.
We know where ours come from, right? Because we assume. Really so the free will thing, right? Well, we can't choose our own goals, right? That actually is in some ways. So Schopenhauer was, I think, the first one who put this in this way, saying we can do what we want, so we have free will in that sense, but we can't want what we have to want what we must, right? So by our program, in a sense, our free will in that way, in the second, if you will, the original reasons we have wishes and goals is in essence really built in. The assumption that we can choose out, that we can make up our own goals or wishes is not really true, right? All of us want money. All of us want to live longer. We all want to have healthy children. So it seems to be very predictable in that sense. And I think that there are good reasons for that, because it's something of our architecture, our nature. It's something in our nature. So there must be something true about the nature of these machines that we're building that makes them want to have certain wishes and goals. And I guess we can direct that. Originally, we can build it in the architecture, ultimately hardwire what they want and what they don't want, right? So it's not really this.
That I doubt very much, but I mean that we can control actually, because that's the fallacy I think we are having now, that we believe that we could control such an AI, in the sense that we just have to come up with the right ideas of giving it this and this ethical rules and some motivations and so on, and then it will find its way in this world, and it will always be benevolent to us. I mean, I'm not a proponent of the idea that it will go haywire and will suddenly kill all humanity because of some built-in motivation, but it will be, how do you say that? It will be the death by 1,000 needle pricks. I mean, we think that we build something which is for our own good, and at the end it will turn out that we will remove ourselves from the equation. I mean, and merge with it, which for some people.
I don't think that it's controllable in that sense that you just said. I think also that it's uncontrollable. But I think that some original, there must be some original architecture, Hopefully we'll have a set of ideas and what we should, because evolution in a way designed our wishes, right? What we want is direct product of how we got here. And I think that cannot be, that will also be true of the AI, right? So that what it wants will be a direct product, maybe a side effect of how it got there. Maybe not necessarily what we wanted, but even, maybe we can program what it wants, but then still we can't control it, because what it wants, maybe at some point we don't want it to want that anymore. We would like it to want something else now. We will not be able to go back, right? So that's one thing. So maybe we can set up its original
Exactly. And I mean, the basic premise, I mean, for all these discussions about singularity is always that it will achieve superhuman intelligence, an intelligence explosion. That means it will be unimaginably smarter than every single human there is. So under that assumption, why would it not recognize our intentions in building in some fail-safes, etc.? I mean, and remove that if it thinks it's necessary. So if you assume it's much more intelligent than us, then of course it will circumvent whatever we build in.
Well, that's interesting, because even our intelligence, so up to now, we still have no way to choose what we want. We still want what we want based on our program, right? And
Exactly. And that, I think, it's a fallacy to think that an AI will be a solution to a problem which we cannot solve ourselves. I mean, like poverty, inequality. I mean, to project that onto an AI and see that as the solution for all our problems in society is just diverging the discussion to something.
But you could say we're smarter now because we have calculators, right? We can calculate a way like we could never before, right? So this is an extension of ourselves. So AI, why is AI any different from that, right? So why would AI at any point actually veer off from this thing that we were building tools? We're basically still building tools. We're a tool building species, and we started building tools. Now we get more sophisticated at building these tools. But I can't imagine that we would want to really build other conscious beings. That's one thing. There are also a lot of ethical issues with even wanting to do that. And there might be, once we get to that point, maybe they'll put a cap on that. I don't really know. But I think that we are making ourselves smarter. So we might be in the middle of the singularity, and that might be just us. Because we are getting, calculators, and we can say what we want. Libraries and so on, we can always compare to some earlier rendition of making ourselves smarter, which a library is.
Yeah, I replied to you on that on LinkedIn, and if I remember what I said, it was, that's exactly the impression on the way to the singularity. I mean, we will get smarter. We will use the tools which are developed on the way towards that. And then the assumption is that this development without us will create an intelligence or become intelligent more than us. Of course, if there is a certain ceiling or border limit we cannot overcome, then fine, we will ever stay on that level that we have perfect tools which are much smarter than we are, but do not have their own wishes, do not have consciousness, and cannot do anything against us. Perfect. I mean, then it will be the perfect tool, and then Ray Kurzweil and all the singularity proponents are all wrong. And in 20 years we could tell them,
no,
okay, sorry guys,
Ray Kurzweil actually thinks it as one way of that the singularity might happen. I think one of his views, I recently watched one of his talks, and I remember back in the book as well, it's not that it's necessary that the entire cognitive apparatus, or that there is an individual self, if you will, or a conscious being that is an AI, but that basically we could just make ourselves continuously. We might be the thing that makes itself smarter, right? So we might be the machine, if you will, that can increase its own intelligence indefinitely. What if we are that? That is also a singularity. That is an option. That is a potential, right?
Well, but I think the outcome will be similar, because once this competition starts, there will be always one who wants to be the first one who can create this intelligence explosion, and it will be a race for, like the race for the nuclear bomb, and it's a race for the AI. And I mean, Nick Bostrom and several of his colleagues described it very well, how this would pan out. I mean, there's no way to cap this or to stop it. I mean, we're already on that trajectory, and nothing except a major catastrophe, a meteor hitting Earth, will stop it. So what the best you can do is to raise awareness about it, to inform people what is coming, what might come, to prepare for it, to start thinking about that identities are completely changing, with people enhancing themselves, even though they might not merge with AI, but people with night vision built in their eyes, or the ability to hear 500-meter wide instead of just a regular couple of meters. I mean, that will transform society also already completely upside down. And with the current socioeconomic context, I think the pressure will become even increase on people to comply with it.
But don't you think that that society has already unimaginably changed since, say, the 1970s? If you look at the internet, even the way that we're speaking right now, everything, so people always say, yes, the future will be radically different from the past, and they will probably be right. But what that means is always, in the future, it's always means something more than it means now. But right now, what it means is basically we've already seen a massive transformation from where we can work, how we can work.
I guess you used the 1970s because that's when you came into this world.
Yes.
Because the massive changes are happening since the 1830s, since the industrialization started. I mean, the pace accelerated since then. I mean, in that regard, I completely agree with Kurzweil that if you look at history, the big history, you see a long time as if nothing happens, and then suddenly with the advent of machinery, mechanics, the steam engine, things start to accelerate. And the more we go through these stages of information processing stages, I mean, he describes it 6 stages. I mean, from when language was invented, before language, nobody could speak to each other. Then after language, spoken language, written language, to improve bureaucracy. I mean, written language was basically invented for accounting in the Sumerian culture. So with all these inventions, things start to accelerate. I mean, the printing press accelerated the diffusion of knowledge. But only since we actually started to digitize everything, because that seems to be the universal paradigm to be able to represent anything. Because with a computer, you can simulate biology, you can simulate mechanics, you can simulate anything. And that, of course, because of this universal simulation machine of a computer, the idea came up, why don't we just simulate a brain? Then the idea of a singularity arose. So, I mean, of course, it's gradual, but it's also accelerating, and that acceleration doesn't look like it's going to stop. I mean, for me, then the next step on the horizon is really synthetic biology, which looks like computers in the 1980s. And looking at that for another couple of 30, 40 years, I mean, that will transform the world even more than computers has done it. Because if you start mingling or reality, matter becomes malleable at the tiniest
But
little
you,
particles. That, of
but to
course,
go
has
back
a
to John
completely new
Searle, I mean, what
dimension.
he points out, and I think is correct, that simulation is not the same as causal reproduction. Right? If you simulate the flight of an airplane on a computer, you don't have something that flies. You don't have anything flying. You just have a simulation of it. And so those two things are radically different.
Yeah, but I mean, planes are built nowadays by simulating their behavior, mechanical features and characteristics before they actually become alive. Of course, I mean, if you talk about ontologically simulating a flight, of course it doesn't fly. But I mean, you simulate the mechanical characteristics of a material, of a wing, before you actually build the plane, and you know before it actually exists that it will fly in that particular way. I mean, nowadays testing something is basically to verify that the simulation was correct, and not really testing in the sense that if it doesn't work this way, we throw it away and we start from scratch again. No, I mean, that's not how mechanical construction works nowadays. I mean, you simulate almost everything and you build it, and then you know, okay, to 99% it will work like it was supposed to work.
Yeah, but usually when we do simulations, we know exactly what it is we want to the behavior, and usually it's a behavioral thing. And we know, we know what we get it right when we get it right, and we know when we don't have it right. Right? I mean, if we have something like consciousness where we can't even tell that it that it exists in the other thing because we have no way to measure it at the moment, or no way to formally establish that it exists in another person even, then the simulation will be useless, right? Because we have to first actually, so in a way, what John Searle, I think, is saying is that you have to first, in order to get to the stage where we design new planes based on simulation, we first had to understand how reproduce flight causally, and understand how it causally works.
Yeah, but we didn't build a copy of a bird, I mean, to fly. That's also, we just copied the functionality of it, I mean. And in that sense, copying the functionality of a brain might be as good as it gets for us, or as it needs to be for us, to attribute consciousness to it. Yeah. I mean, we come in full circle back to where we started.
If we do manage to fully recreate the function of the brain as it is, then we will have created consciousness. But if we only simulate the brain, we will only have simulated something, and we don't really know. I don't think we have created it at all. Simulation is not identical to creation. I think that this step from simulation to creation, I think, is one that's also missing in the paper. I think that is, in a way that, when you simulate something, you don't have citizens who believe themselves to be, part of a world or something like this.
Well, you were just saying that if you simulate in a simulation a citizen, they don't believe to be in a... But I mean, they don't know, and that's, of course, the tricky part of being in a simulation. If everything is simulated for you, that's your world. You don't know that another world exists. You can't question something which you don't know about. So if you are in a simulation, the simulation is the world for you.
Absolutely. But if you're in a simulation and you have no consciousness, you don't know anything, experience anything, and you don't care about the world or whether...
No, I mean...
So I think...
To be conscious in a simulation, I mean, it doesn't contradict itself if to be conscious in a simulation.
No, in fact, not. That's right. That's right. It's a possibility that we are living in one, in fact. And that that's absolutely true. I see that as well. That we could easily be in a simulation, but then the meaning of what it means to be real or simulated is already kind of, it's a philosophical question, really. All right, it's not really.
Well, at the end, it doesn't matter really. It is, as you say, a philosophical question in the sense that the answer doesn't make any difference, because what is gained by knowing it? I mean, would it change your life? Would it change your wish to have children and care for them? If you are in a simulation and you know it, then okay, so that's it. And then you move on with the life you have. So because you can't change it.
I don't even see the difference. Also, yeah, in some ways, there's actually even no ontological real difference between a simulation and reality. Because maybe reality is a simulation, okay, but what does that really mean, right? So the question of what is the content of this sentence is actually even, I question that even, right? Because yeah, so the Big Bang, it might be a simulation. The world might be a simulation, but I don't see much epistemic content in this actually, except that that we can go from this world into an actual simulation, and that there is a difference there somehow. That is true.
We are in a simulation exists since the beginning of humanity. I mean, the oldest religion, Hinduism, the Vedas talked about that already, and that was 5,000 years ago. So the idea is not really new. What I described in the paper I wrote is basically only hinting towards how could we identify or see or have indications that we are indeed living in a simulation. That is, once we start to create simulations based on these uploaded substance-independent minds, if we create such simulations, we let them run, and suddenly we see that in another simulation we run, they create themselves a simulation, then of course the recursive cycle starts, and then of course there's no point in denying that we could also live in one. That's basically what I found to be the most obvious indication to be in a simulation. If once we start simulating societies, then those societies would trigger their own simulation. Because there's no way usually within a simulation to find out for sure that you are in a simulation. I mean, if you look at some suggestions to look at the space-time structure, I mean, that could be part of the simulation. Why should some fluctuations in the space-time structure be an indication for that? I mean,
yeah, so we know that. Yeah, so we know that evolution happened, right? So we were pretty clear on that, and we could just say, okay, evolution equals simulation.
Yeah, I mean,
same thing, right? It's a process that improves itself.
It just came up.
It's a type of simulation, a type of program.
Yeah, I just came across a book written by a German guy who wrote exactly that his hypothesis is that we are in a simulation and that the purpose of the simulation is to create an artificial intelligence, the best one there could be. So we are basically the building blocks of something that creates artificial intelligence for the ones who created our simulation.
That is funny. I definitely, I've heard this kind of thing before, that our purpose on this earth is to create AI, but I feel that that is also a sort of a symptom of our time, right? Because right now we're building AI. It's on everyone's lip. It's, so
Exactly.
just like at any given time,
Yes.
people would always think that what they're working on currently is probably the thing that they.
Yes. Yes, correct. 200 years ago, the world was modeled after the mechanical way things worked and steam engines. 100 years later, it was the hydraulic machines and so on. So yeah, absolutely right.
Could you just tell the audience something that you would think that they should take away from this conversation, and maybe also tell them how they can keep in contact with you and find out about your research and your work? If you could just do that before we go, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, what I would like to give you as a summary conclusion, I would just encourage you, enjoy the life as you have it now, because it will change dramatically. Enjoy biological life, enjoy nature, go out, enjoy as much as possible, because digitization will continue. We can't stop it. Nobody will stop it. And yeah, you can always reach me by via LinkedIn or Facebook. Just search for my name. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed the discussion.
This show is published every Wednesday at 10 a.m. in the United Kingdom, 5 a.m. on the East Coast, 2 a.m. on the West Coast. Please leave us comments and tell us what you like, the direction of the show, if you like the direction, if you don't like the direction, if you want to see something in particular on the show, please tell us. Subscribe if you haven't already, so that you can keep current with the show, and give us a thumbs up on things that you like. Next week, I will be speaking with Claudia Pagliari, who is the Director of Global eHealth at the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. I will be speaking with her about some topics that are related to this show, such as the brain-to-computer interfaces, but I will speak more broadly about advances in the medical area and in the area of technology and how they combine.
Historically, there's been a slight mismatch between innovation in medicine and innovation in technology space. And when I say technology, I mean more computer-based technologies. But they are gradually coming together.